Welcome to Dojo Live, the place where top minds in travel and hospitality check in to share insights and breakthroughs shaping the industry. Brought to you by Ancora, your trusted partner for AI, cloud, and data-driven innovation. Enjoy your stay. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dojo Live this Thursday, April 25th, 2025. Today's the 24th, actually. I'm sorry about that. This here on Dojo Live is where we have candid conversations with industry leaders tackling the biggest technology challenges in travel and hospitality. I am your host, Kim Lantis, and today we're diving into episode number 2 of our Redefining the Digital Storefront series, Insights from Hospitality's Direct Booking Leaders. And today we're going to be discussing the direct booking blueprint, personalization, and loyalty. Here to tell us all about how personalization and loyalty are combining to maximize hotel profitability are Phelim Pekaar, founder and CEO of P3. Hello, Phelim.
Hi, Kim. How are you? Thanks for having us on the show today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your time with us and your knowledge with us. It's a pleasure to have you here. As we kick things off, Phelim, can you tell us a bit about your background in hospitality and kind of what inspired you to launch P3 Hotel Software? I know you've got quite a record behind you there.
At this stage, it's so long ago, it's difficult to remember how I started, but I would call myself an accidental entrepreneur. I finished computer science when I was 25, a late starter to technology. And at that time, the world had collapsed. We had the dot-com crisis. I don't know if you probably don't remember that.
But not so much, a little bit. It was when it was boring on the news that my parents were watching.
So I couldn't get a job as a software developer. So I set up my own company and I said, well, I'll do whatever I can. And many technologists back then, we were in web development, web design. That's how I started the company. But a couple of years into it, I got the opportunity of building a custom booking engine for a hotel group in Dublin, Ireland. And we got a reputation in Ireland of doing that well. And that was built on Oracle Opera. That's what we were integrating with. And we kind of soon learned that actually a lot of other hotels were struggling to build custom booking engines. And we decided just to focus in on it. So over the last, I'd say 15 years, our reputation grew from Ireland to the UK. We did that for maybe 7 years. And then from the UK, we spread into the US and Germany and Finland, and now Australia and Asia as well, and the Middle East. All through just having a strong reputation of building custom booking engines with a good integration to Oracle Opera.
I love that. I love that story, and I love to see the international growth as well. So much at the heart of travel, right? And what that probably even means for you as a business leader in terms of just learning and different geographies, different cultures. How absolutely fun is that?
Well, it demonstrates what a small world hospitality tech is, actually, because we spread by word of mouth globally.
Word of mouth is the best way to spread. And that kind of leans into our topic of conversation today, kicking us off with loyalty, right? Sometimes I think the most loyal customers are the ones that do that, absolutely that, spreading the word of mouth. So, it's my understanding, Phelim, as we were talking pre-show, that you yourself kind of break loyalty down into sort of 3 categories, that being brand loyalty, loyalty now, and points and rewards. Can you walk us through the loyalty for dummies here a little bit of what each of these means and how they differ?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that's my dog. Don't worry. Don't mind him. So listen, working with so many different brands and different star brands, 5-star, 4-star, 3-star in different jurisdictions, I've kind of learned over the years that loyalty can mean one of 3 things, as I coin it. It's a broad-based term, loyalty. So I broke it down into 3 segments. So loyalty by brand is hotels that have a strong brand that people recognize. Hotels that have been there for 100 years or people know who they are. And a lot of hoteliers, I don't think, put enough weight on their brand and how powerful it is. They feel like because they're a small independent, their brand wouldn't be as strong as some of the chains or other well-known brands that we all kind of, as consumers, reference. So that's what we call brand loyalty. And it actually plays a really important part to getting somebody to book direct. Okay, and we'll come back to that in a second. The second one, which we've coined, is loyalty now. So hotels obviously have that enormous challenge of trying to compete against the OTAs. And the OTAs
Mm.
have built brand loyalty as well, but they also have tricks and tools such as member discounts, where if you are a member of the OTA, they'll give you a discount. So they're sharing the commission that they charge with the hotels with the guest. So hotels are now doing what they call sign up now and we'll give you 10% off. And that's what we call loyalty now. So it's a new consumer, it's a new guest who's never stayed in the hotel, but you're drawing them into book direct because that loyalty bait is the equivalent or better than what they might get on the OTA.
Kind of like when a department store wants you to sign up for a credit card. Hey, get 10%, 15% off your first purchase.
Exactly. It's the same thing. Call that loyalty now. And it has a role to play on direct booking. And it also depends on the type of hotel and the type of guests that they're getting. And then the last one is the traditional, what I call the old school loyalty. It's we stay and we stay and we stay in a hotel and they give you points. And then someday down the road, you can do something amazing with those points. My first loyalty scheme I was involved with, I think they even gave TVs away. So that's how long I've been in the business.
All right. That was very clear. Thank you so much for breaking that down because it's a really great way to get that baseline set for the rest of today's conversation, I think. So let's start now with a little bit about the smaller hotel groups. You mentioned this, the brand loyalty side, the independents. Are there certain loyalty strategies that are more effective than others for that particular group of hotels? What's your advice for hotels that feel like you had said earlier, they just can't compete, with the big brand or with the chain kind of point programs?
Yeah, so I think this is from my experience of working with hotels for 25 years, and what I've recognized that the hotels that have built up their own brand have done so through, going for awards, winning awards. It might be for their level of service. It could be their restaurant. Even their F&B outlets could promote
Mm,
locally in terms of what's going on in the area. And they've worked very hard at that just over, it could be 5, 10, 20 years. And that's how they've got their I call it a mini brand because it's an independent hotel out to the local market.
mhm.
But the effect that's had, so the hotels that do that well, we see have a higher percentage of direct bookings versus their OTA bookings than hotels who are not focusing on it. Now, a lot of the time with distribution, it's kind of easy to say, let's just go all in on the OTAs, they give us the customers. But if you work hard at building that brand locally, it is like a ripple effect with a stone in a pond. Because the people who are local to you will recommend you to people who are coming in. We all go travel, right? And you would ring somebody who might be staying in Boston, you say, what hotel would you recommend to stay? And if
Right.
somebody has an affiliation, like a loyal affiliation to a particular brand, that's what comes out of their mouth, saying, oh, you got to stay in this hotel. It's really nice. They do great cocktails. So you go on to the direct website, and if the brand is represented throughout that whole booking journey, you have a much higher chance of capturing that new guest to book directly with you rather than letting them go back to the OTAs.
I love it. Let's zooming in on that brand loyalty piece just a bit more. It's my understanding that direct bookings, because I think that's what a lot of hotels, that's the goal here, particularly with this series that we're talking about here on Dojo Live. Those direct bookings spiked kind of unexpectedly after COVID. You have some insight in what drove that shift, and what smaller hotels can maybe learn from that when it comes to building their brand?
Yeah, the COVID was a real phenomenon that hoteliers, uh, it was a real mind shift for a lot of them. I was in Ireland at the time when COVID happened. So we had quite stringent lockdowns. I understand like certain states here in the US had similar lockdowns, just depending on where you
Hmm.
live.
Yeah.
But when they opened up, right, when we opened up for travel and staycations, as it was coined, if you remember, direct
Hmm.
bookings went through the roof, right? And actually, the hotels, we were working with hotels in preparation for that. And they were setting up everything on booking.com or Expedia or getting ready for that wave of bookings to come through the OTAs. But the wave came through direct and they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't understand, like, why are now all of a sudden so many people booking direct versus through the OTAs. And when we, with reflection on it, like a couple of months later, and talking to many hoteliers, everyone, it dawned on everyone that when people had to stay in a hotel local to them, they used their imagination in terms of what hotel have I heard of, or did I stay in the past that I want to stay in. So it was their brand loyalty that really came to the surface during COVID to draw guests to come and book with them direct. Now that was the other theory, was that people were a bit put off by OTAs with they weren't getting the cancellations or the refunds and the money back. But a lot of that was international travelers, and they weren't coming. Our view was it was actually your local brand to your local customers just held a lot of weight, and hotels didn't understand how much of an asset that local brand was until now.
Until now, do you suppose also coming into things maybe like economic depression or inflation in other places, is that going to, you expect that kind of same
Yeah,
trend to maybe be happening?
that's a cool question, right? So obviously, with what's going on at the moment, if you're reading the news, you're seeing transatlantic traffic, airline traffic is down heavily between Europe and the US. So I predict that actually hotels are going to see an increase in direct bookings because people are going to book locally. They're not going to go overseas for travel as much, but they're going to spend their money locally. And when that happens, they're going to be drawn to the brands that they know. So yeah, I think this year could be good for hotels. And actually, people have been talking about maybe a mini recession or something like that. We're watching the numbers every week. There's no indication that we can see from our numbers that people are not spending or holding on to their purse strings at the moment. Actually, booking levels, I think 2 weeks ago, was the highest booking levels we've seen across all our hotels as an average for this year. January's
Interesting.
all, yeah, it's really interesting.
Interesting. Maybe it's the, well, better do it now if I'm going to do it. Who knows what's going to happen later, right? Who knows? But it's interesting in terms of if we're expecting or maybe looking into this idea, this uptick of the brand loyalty and more local bookings. How can that loyalty now piece play into the puzzle? Does this personalization play a role here? I know that airlines have kind of nailed the art of upselling and customizing the booking experience in terms of seat selection or baggage, premium upgrades. Why haven't hotels adopted this approach kind of more widely? How can they start? And if they're looking to have more of those locals, what kind of creative ways do you think that they could go about doing this?
Well, let me answer the question from a technological point of view, first of all. So the reason hotels haven't done it yet is because traditionally technology is centered around what we call distribution systems. So hotels have to distribute through a channel manager, and then hanging off a channel manager tends to be the direct booking engine as a kind of an add-on
Right.
or an extra piece. And the technology is not connected to the hotel's actual reservation system, which we call the PMS. And the PMS holds a lot more information around rooms. So what actually is in room 104? Is room 105, does it have a pool view, right? They're all classed as the same sort of room type, but you can't get into what is the differentiators between rooms, okay? And then secondly, you can't also access the guest profile and maybe use that information to try and predict better recommendations for them. So where P3 specializes, our technology always sits on top of a PMS. It's directly integrated to a PMS. So the level of access we have to that data is far superior than what you might get from a booking engine that hangs off a distribution system. But so we are starting to work with hotels where they're going, hang on a second, why don't we do, we'll sell this room number at an additional cost. So the person can actually pick their room and it's guaranteed. Or we're doing things like connected rooms. So we're guaranteeing that two rooms actually have a door between them. So they're booking room 103 and 105. They're the ones that are interconnected. And that's because we have direct access to the PMS. But in the future, so what I've always done actually as a developer and entrepreneur is I've looked to see what the airlines are doing. And the airlines over the years has evolved in allowing guests to build a very bespoke booking. for something that's a commodity. Like, why do you care? You're sitting on an airline seat, right? But actually, we go into the details of going exactly how much does my bag weigh? I want to sit on 14A because I like to be beside the window, but not in front of the engine or behind the engine. I want to be at the top of the seat because I like at the top of the plane because I want to get off. And all these little add-ons. So instead of spending $99, we spend 136 and 50 cents, okay, on our booking. But we're happy to do that as a consumer because we felt like we have got maximum value out of that 136 and 50 cent.
Or there's people like me who just like, I want to save my money and I couldn't care less. But when you think about it in an odd way, that's also personalization, right?
That's also
Like,
personalization because you feel like you're getting the best value for your money, right? Because you have decided not to upsell all the other things.
I
So then,
decide not to decide.
yeah, you decide not to decide. Yeah. So it gives you a sense of greater value. So if the hotels can start to replicate that, which they can because the technology is there, the differentiator for them against the OTAs is if I'm on an OTA and I'm booking just a double room, right? And I go to the brand website and now I can start to dictate my entire experience. I might end up spending more, but I've built the value for myself. And
Mhm.
that's going to be a game changer, I think, for direct bookings.
Absolutely, because I also think, I mean, as a consumer, my perception also is that the OTAs get the leftovers, right? So like some part of me assumes that if I book through an OTA, it's not going to be as good of an experience if I book through
That's a
the direct
healthy
booking agent.
assumption, Tim.
But I mean, it's kind of fun too because it's not just like the comfort, but I'm thinking of, like going back to brand loyalty, hotels that maybe are famous for their age or reputation of having been haunted, and maybe particular rooms are more haunted than others. I mean, this is very niche, right? But like
Yeah,
I can specifically book that room because I'm hoping for that experience.
yeah, yeah. You can. You can if the hotel puts the effort in to put it together.
Fantastic, fantastic. You know, let's say, the ultimate goal, our traveler actually lands on our website, our hotel website. What then needs to happen in that moment to keep them bouncing back to an OTA or to another hotel's website?
Well, in today's world, the one thing that we focus on and have done really since I personally started building booking engines is that we build a very brand oriented and custom designed booking engine. The reason we do that is because it establishes trust with the consumer. They feel like this is something of high quality.
I'm not getting the leftovers. It's not a garbage
You're not
dump.
getting the leftovers, and you're not on this kind of template driven booking engine with small room images, and you're going, this doesn't look like it's fully integrated with the website. Will my reservation actually get there? I've had experience where it booked and it didn't arrive. But if the booking engine feels and looks to a high standard of quality, that resonates in your mind to say, okay, this is properly done. And they feel much more comfortable to book direct. They trust the OTAs because they're such big brands and such huge systems. They've used them over and over again. They know it's going to work. So what you're trying to do now is you're trying to establish that trust. So that's really, really important. And we see that time and time again when customers move to us and we put in a branded booking engine, you get an uptick in conversion rate.
Love it, love it. Let's talk a little bit about some of these real world results. I think you touched on this a bit when we were talking about, the COVID times or just amping up the brand loyalty to the local traveler. But can you share perhaps a case study or a success story that about a hotel or a hotels that have shifted in their strategy and maybe saw this measurable improvement in their direct bookings? What do you got for us in your
Yeah,
25 years of history here?
there's two examples that spring to mind. Again, they're going to be Irish examples because I was in COVID during that period, so I was able to see exactly what happened. But both of them were bowled over with how much their direct bookings grew. Like one grew to 80%. They were at about 50% and they went to 80%. And then the other one was at about 20% and they went to 50%. But they both said the same thing afterwards, which was, we're never going back. We're never going back to being so reliant on the OTAs. And they've worked really hard to maintain a high level of direct bookings. Now, It has come back because the international traveler came back over the last 4 years, and you need the OTAs for that. But there's things that they've done to try and keep that direct booking up. And the tricks that they did was they closed out on the OTAs before their own website. So when they got to a kind of a 90% occupancy or something like that, they would shut down the OTAs, leaving that last room availability or a buffer of last room availability on their own website. Okay, that was trick one. And trick two was to make sure that the OTAs offer these really good, what they call tactical promotions. So it's like, do you want to have a mobile discount? Give a discount to US travelers. Be part of the Genius program, or be part of our loyalty membership. And there's all these tricks. But actually what they're trying to do is get the direct booking engine pricing separated from the pricing that's on the OTA. Because the booking engine doesn't have these tools, typically speaking. And that's what they're going into the hotels saying, hey, we have a promotion running, you should be part of it. We're going to get you an extra 5% or 10% for the month of March. Sign up now, tick this box. But all they're trying to do is break rate parity, which they force the hotels to sign up to. So the hotels that are kind of cottoned on to this are very much focused. They won't sign up to these programs, number one, or B, if they think it's going to give them a competitive advantage, they'll make sure it's matched on their brand website. Okay.
Right.
And it's really important because yes, you'll get they'll give you an uplift, but think of it from this perspective. If you're a shopper, you tend to shop for 30 days before you book a hotel room. That's the average, right? So if a hotel runs one of these tactical promotions, you go on to shop and you've seen, well, I see on booking.com it's cheaper, or Expedia, whatever it is, or the OTA. I see it's cheaper there, right? And I like the look of the hotel, so I'm definitely going to stay there. And in the 30 days, you come back, right? But you're booking for maybe now June or July, and now the hotel is back to rate parity. But you've trained your guest to book with the OTA. They haven't actually booked on a promotion, but you educated them. It's better to book with the OTA. And that's what's really dangerous. It's that education piece. And the flip actually happens when you keep your last rooms back. So if you go on to an OTA and you don't see availability, and then you go to the brand website and you say, oh no, they do have a room there. What have you done? You've trained the guest to book direct. That's where you get the best room, where you get the best availability.
And that trust in the OTA diminishes a little because you're like, huh, they got it wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. They got it wrong. Yeah, you get the trust breaks down. They don't know what they're doing. Yeah. The hotel has it. It's there. So in 2 months' time, you'll go direct to book. And actually, as you go word of mouth, you'll go to the website. It's really good, and it's like that pebble in the pond.
Yeah, and then the really fun loyalty nows that you can get at the websites as well, like that you're not going to get through the OTA, like 2 drinks from the bar or
And then,
something.
yeah, anything like that a hotel can offer, that's tying into the loyalty now, giving something as a reward for somebody booking direct for the first time. Yeah, fantastic. We've seen like 25% uplift in conversion rate the minute a hotel offers something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. And we always say to them, going, look, you got to put it into perspective of what you might lose in commission versus what you're giving away. What does a cocktail cost? Like $5 in terms of absolute cost. But
Yeah.
it's just getting them to see that.
And then once they have that first cocktail, they're likely to stick around and get the second one anyway, instead of popping across the street to the steakhouse.
Yes, yeah. I can't
Exactly.
guarantee that though.
Yeah, no guarantees, no guarantees. Yeah. You know, so for some hoteliers, upgrading their booking engine probably sounds like a massive headache. But what's the reality today? Is there, especially, with the modern APIs, integration capabilities sitting right on top of the PMS, what's this actually look like? Is it much of an overhaul or undertaking as perceived?
No, it's much simpler now. So I do think, going back to describing distribution systems and booking engines hanging off those, it was quite a complex chain of technology that had to link together. Where when you build technology that sits completely on top of the reservation system, the way we describe it is that the PMS is the source of truth. You have one set of data. So when we're onboarding customers, I literally have conversations with new clients myself, and they say, like, how long will it take to sync the availability and the rates up? And I go, no, it doesn't. You just give us a username and password for your PMS, and that's it. Bang, in it goes. Um, so they're always a little bit skeptical, but yeah, okay, you say a week or 2 weeks. And then when we're finished the project, they go, we can't believe we had nothing to do. Like, all they had to do is give us the room images, give us the room content, and that's it. Up it goes, and they're running. Yeah, it's so we're getting booking engines up in 1 to 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. We're actually congratulations for that for starters. But we're coming up to the sort of the final few minutes of our conversation today. And so I guess I want two things. The first thing is how exactly is P3 partnering with hotels on their journey from strategy to tech? Where do you step in? How do you help? Let's talk to that a little bit.
Um, so typically, how it starts that journey is customers want to be able to first of all know what we can deliver in the future for them. So there's very much a conversation around, look, down the road, we want to be able to do all these things. But they're realistic in terms of, okay, they want to get live. So we go through phase one, which is get them live, almost what they have like for like. Okay. And up they go. And they get used to the interface, how it works and the technology. One source of truth is sometimes a little bit of what they have to get their heads around. It's a
Mm.
different way of operating for revenue managers. Once we're connected and we're up and running, we then kind of work with hotels almost on a 12-month basis. We have a project rollout plan of stuff that they want to implement. It could be like, okay, we want to put in loyalty now features or functionality. We want to enable the geolocation mobile discount functionality. It could be our full-blown loyalty system that they're looking to do, online check-in, online checkout. Obviously, hotels are short-staffed. They don't have hundreds of people. So you're relying
Right.
on maybe one person on their end who you're working through projects on a piecemeal basis. So that's kind of how we operate. We have like lots of account managers, and they're working with lots of different hotels, helping them roll out new improvements and new features that brings them to where they want to get to.
Perfect. And my final question is just about that future. So, in your engagements with your clients, your partners, you're talking about what do you want to do in the future? What about these next 12 months? What's your take on the future in general of the industry, of what's going to be happening on the technology side, and more specifically on the direct booking side? What can we expect, and what should we be preparing for?
Well, what we're excited about and looking to build is that capability for a guest to really custom tailor their experience. And people talk about personalization. Again, personalization, we could probably break that down into three buckets, but maybe that's for another day, Kim. But
Welcome
you
back anytime.
what I'd love to see happen is that hotels can start to offer a base rate, and then the guest can tailor exactly what they want to have. So they might start out with $200 room rate, but they'll end up with a $450 price tag for their booking. But they've taken absolute control of it. They've booked their yoga, they've booked the restaurant, which they've got maybe at a better price. They've booked what time they're arriving at. They've picked the exact room that they want, and maybe golf or a spa treatment as well. And they're excited. And I think the traveler today spends more time being excited about their upcoming stay than actually being in the stay. And that's we love tinkering and building and making the experience to be kind of what we want it to be. There will be operational challenges, especially in terms of around pricing.
Mm,
Hotels do that, and kind of revenue is all about changing the price on a daily basis. That's how we yield, right, and filling the empty spots of rooms.
yep.
But I think there's going to be a bit of a mind shift around going. Actually, what we need to do is figure out what amenities we can offer that guests can self configure, self build to give them that feeling that they're creating their own experience. And it'll be very different. The OTAs won't be able to offer that. So you're really going to end up pulling the guests from the OTA into your own direct booking agent because they can gamify
Exactly.
their reservation. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of alignment with what you're saying on what we heard earlier this year on our RMS series and into our PMS series as well. And that's going beyond the RevPAR into the revenue per available. I think we called it Peg. That was with Agilicis, I think. I'm terrible at pronouncing things, but revenue per available guest, or we could say revenue per available stay. And it's really interesting to see how exactly the direct booking and the booking engine is making that possible. And I think you're spot on. And congratulations on, your forward thinking and also just the tech side of actually being able to make that happen, beginning to make that happen at P3 with all of your really cool integrations. You know, this is the end of our conversation today, if you can believe it or not, Phelim. But thank you so much for sharing exactly how personalization and loyalty strategies like brand loyalty, your loyalty now, and points and rewards, a little bit, we didn't talk about that one, but can work together to just drive more profitable direct bookings for hotels. Before we go, if our audience wants to speak directly to you or find out more about P3 and your very, very easy setups in terms of getting that massive headache out of the way that isn't a headache at all, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, so they can find us easily online on p3hotels.com. I myself am on LinkedIn, Phelim Pekaar. Just search for Phelim Pekaar on LinkedIn and you'll find me. And they're probably the two best ways of reaching out.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you once again. Thank you to our sponsor, Ancora, for making these conversations happen. Ancora does partner with leading travel and hospitality companies to accelerate their innovation through world-class software engineering solutions. Now, if you enjoyed this conversation, do follow us, dojo.live, on a variety of socials. You can also check out our website for conversations like today's with Phelim, as well as past conversations that we have had. And coming up, conversations, join us Tuesday, April 29th at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific as we dive into what it takes to deliver guest obsessed hospitality in a digital first world. That is with Eric Lutz, CEO and co founder of Olive. Until then, stay curious, stay innovative, and bye for now. Thank you for them.
Thanks, Kim. Bye bye.